of the lawyers and everything. So why do I get in return? I get the security forces working for me efficiently. That's because they are industrious. They have more to encounter, and eventually, the more cases filed against them. But in my 22 years as mayor, I have never allowed a military man, a policeman, the security forces to go to jail because they were doing their duty. Never allowed it. I fought all the way up, tooth and nail. There was a time 27 police officers were recommended for dismissal. I raised hell. And I said I would never allow it, even if I have to. Or might as well ask them to join me and go to the mountains and fight government. If that is how things turn out to be with all our good intentions. Now, with the Coast Guard having the ships, well, number one is maritime safety, then rescue, then protection of the environment, and our intervention or interdictions of drugs. Let me just explain to you my longing desire. I am a Filipino. I do not claim greatness. I do not have the credentials even. I graduated on a 75, 76, 75 level of grades. Barely enough to climb. All of the cabinet members that you see now are my friends, my fraternity brothers, and people from Davao whom I know. I could not have selected my cabinet from here, and that was the criticism, magkaibigan, friends, magkainuman, drinking partners. But for the life of me, I have a serious problem and I cannot drink anymore. I do not go out. After work, I go back to my bedroom and start on state papers. Ngayon dito, why? What's the passion? It's because I have to defend the lives of the people. Not only the criminals who created them, not only the drugs who financed them, but the civilians who were killed along the way. And because most of them do not have money, if you go out in the streets at night, there were a lot of hold-ups, there were a lot of rapes. They just pull you in one dark corner and they would just ravish the women. The human rights starts to harp on, maybe the human rights, on say the culture of violence. My God, be honest to yourself. The culture of violence started when the drug problem was allowed to go astray all these years. Nobody was doing about it, except in Davao, because I was very strict, and the police and the security forces had my backing. And so there were a lot of encounters, and therefore a lot died. And I was the favorite weeping boy of the human rights for simply out of the numbers. And I said, because people are working, and because I support them, I defend them. If all of these things were done, killing people in the line of duty, and one thing is fundamental for all, the military, the police, and the security forces, and even the security guards, assisting in the arrest of the private security. I told everybody when I became the president, go out and hunt for them. Arrest them. Announce your authority if there is still time to do it. and place him under arrest and tell them that he is being placed under the custody of the law. And if he does not submit, it's the criminals, it's the police. Your duty is to arrest. And if there is a resistance, you have to overcome the resistance to bring him to the court of justice if there is a warrant for his arrest. And if there is none, and you catch him selling shabu, committing a crime in your presence, or about to commit a crime in your presence, or has in fact committed a crime in your presence, you do not need a warrant. Just go ahead and announce your authority and bring him. Now, if he presents a resistance, a violent one, and if you think that he is armed with a lethal weapon, and you will die, then may God shoot him dead. That was my order. And in not repeat every time I say, go out and hunt for them. Because you guys, you have the basic 2 years training about criminal law, criminal evidence, and all of those things. And as a matter of fact, when I graduated, when I passed the bar, I got married very early. I had to work as a professor in the police academy in southern Mindanao, which is in Davao. I taught criminal law, criminal evidence, and criminal procedure. But all of those things are already imbued in the minds of the people. No need for me really to lecture everything. But the sheer number given by General Santiago of PDEA of 3 million. When I was in Laos, I had a chance to have a talk with, and during my state visit, with President Widodo. And I asked him, Mr. President, how many addicts are there in your country? And he said, you would not believe it, but it's 4 million. And I looked at the heavens and said, well, the last survey, or at least the census or the data given to us by General Santiago was 3. Let alone during my time, it was about 700, then slowly it climbed to 8, 9, and by the year ends, I would have about also 1 million additional addicts. So, if you compare Indonesia, which is a big, two great islands, of 3 maybe, with 460 million, with 4 million addicts. Now compare it to my country. A very small one, 7,000 islands, I said, from apart, and I have to take care of this number. What's the solution? Kill them all? You cannot build a nation over the bones of your countrymen. That is possible. But what about this problem now of drugs? Well, had I not been elected president, nobody would have known the sheer number of our problem. Why? Because even during the past administrations, there were the military aides, generals and all, who were the aides of the politicians, who were the candidates lining for the presidency. I said, had I not been the elected president and started to squeeze everybody, we know now the number, the sheer number for me. Now, when I started my campaign in Davao and during the presidency, I said, do not destroy my country. We are short of everything and we can hardly cope up. Do not ever tinker with the interest of my country because I will kill you. And I made a second statement. Do not destroy the youth of the land. Because if I do not do anything, I would have compromised the next generation. We are short of funds. Or critic, every one of them, every country, would just say, "Why, Mr. Duterte, why don't you just build rehab houses and treat them? Fine, that's good. I like it. The problem is they should know because they are running a government similar to ours. And you know what country it is. Very similar, including the Constitution. That I am operating on a budget that I inherited from my predecessor. And remember that this budget that I am operating now was prepared the other year to be implemented this year, and the budget next year is being prepared by us for next year's implementation. There was no money. I could not get the money from the armed forces and transfer it to the Department of Health. I cannot do that. It is not allowed. It would be like robbing Peter to pay Paul. It ain't allowed. So I had just to stand there helpless. But with all the going on, in the past administration, the culture of violence was already there. Please take note of the statistics. What the victims then were: children raped, family inside the house massacred. Every day. The volume of crime before, the volume of crime now is just pickings. Dito lang kasi, it's only in Manila, there's a lot of fighting. What in the other? Wala na. We are down by 50%, 49 in Mindanao, in the crime rate against crimes of person or crimes against property. So we had to work double time. I said, target the big ones. And when they say the big ones, they're sprawled with shorts and dirty shirts. Why? Do you think that they are really... They are the big ones actually selling, They come here, do business in our country, selling everything in sight. And during night time, they go to Chinatown, and the selling of drugs, the transaction, is always a brisk activity. So we had to act. Why? Because it is a self-preservation thing. The 4 million is not concentrated in one barangay. They are spread throughout the Philippines. And with 4 million into Shabu, what do you think will happen to the next generation? They don't understand it because it is not their concern. Were it for the lives of their citizens, they would have done worse. So, but it's not their problem. They always try to sport about human rights and everything. That human rights issue was against me ever since I became mayor. And you from the Davao, Mindanao, you know that. It was an issue, it was always an issue of women and drugs killing extrajudicial. But I had several wives, and, well, my wives, they have left me. I have forgiven them. So, that's not an issue anymore. But remember, that issue against me during the last presidential election was a non-issue. You are all witnesses. The never issue came out until the time when I was hitting the ratings up to 32 and stayed there to win the election of 15 million voting for me with a majority of a sheer number of 6 million over my necks. Why? I come from Mindanao. Some of you do not even know where Mindanao is. No offense intended. Why? From the outside, I came in here. I was the only non-persona in